Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to your final episode of the year from the Art School graduates. My
Yeah.
name is Justin Robinson.
And I'm Badir McCleary. We have made it.
Episode
Episode
10.
10. We have made it. We are here. It's
Yes.
been a dope first season though. Just getting the kinks out and understanding how we're, gonna just pretty much do this. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It
I
was
think
it was dope.
I learned a lot. I can tell
Me
you
too.
that much. This podcast forced me out of my comfort zone and forced me into um researching a lot of different things that I would never look into, because it's just
Yeah.
like we have our specialties of what we can speak on,
Mhm.
and we just don't want to beat that to death. It's nice to
Yeah.
sprinkle it in, but we don't want to beat
Yeah.
it to death. But I learned a lot. I can tell you that much. I
Yeah. I mean, and the
Yeah.
good thing about what we do is that, there's a research part in what we do. So, the back and forth with, me sending, hey, look at this little thing, or you sending, hey, maybe we should try this, or, that willingness to get better
Mhm.
is something that, we carry in our art practices and teaching and consulting and everything. And it's also good to see that carry over into this podcast because it's definitely something that we really enjoy. And it's dope. It's been
Yeah.
really, really amazing to just start this thing, man. And season one has been better than we expected, I'm sure. I mean,
Right.
we expected to get some listens, but I mean, it's been love.
Yes, 100%. And I think we both have talked about, like, it's crazy how we look at our numbers and we're like, oh, people are actually listening to us. Like,
Yeah.
we kind of were like, I don't know how many people are going to listen to us. And now we're like, oh, people are listening to us. This is this. So we're doing something right. We're carving our own niche. We're carving our own lane. And for the people that listen faithfully, we thank you guys. And
Most definitely.
we have something special coming and in the works for season 2. But
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
so we want to end this final season on our top 10. So what we did here is I picked 5 of the top kind of different art topics we spoke on. Some we really didn't even get to touch base on because we just so much art, not enough time.
Yeah,
And then
we'll probably be
yeah,
better with time management in
yeah.
season two because we usually start off with like 5 topics and
Hmm.
then we go ham
And then
and
it's
then only
3.
get 2 out.
Yeah, 2 to 3. So what we did here is I chose 5 myself, but dear, he chose 5, and we're gonna rock with those for this episode.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna
Change it
jump.
up a bit, make it a little
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. So I'm gonna jump off with it. And I know when we were talking about this before we got started, Madeira's like, man, you took my first one too. And I think it's totally fine because what we're speaking on is everybody's favorite topic, jam,
Oh
just above
yeah.
Midtown. I think, I don't even know what to say. I know for a fact that we were just excited to see them get their roses,
Mhm.
excited that we had the opportunity to speak in great detail on this topic. And this was
Mhm.
another lesson for me to dive deep into who Linda Good Bryant was or is,
Yeah.
and it's like I know she has changed and moved through different avenues in life, but this is like she left a heavy imprint by
Mhm.
opening these doors for jam and opening these doors for these different artists. And so my number one is going to be jam. How you
For
feel about it, my
sure.
dear?
I can't argue with that. I mean, there's no way I would argue with that. I mean, it's just like you, I mean, you already said it. Like Linda Good Bryant has done so much with her presence to
Mhm,
where she just allowed people to think differently, allow
mhm,
curators to think bigger, allow artists to think better of what they're creating,
mhm.
allowed the quote unquote institutional world to step out of the office for a second and see what's happening, in that building. It was amazing to see. I mean, it isn't going to be fully replicated at MoMA. I
No,
didn't expect it to be fully replicated. It's one of those you had to be there moments for MoMA. I mean, not for
absolutely.
MoMA, for Jam.
Hmm.
Um, but what I did get, obviously, wasn't born, but what I did get from it was enough to make me feel that I was a part of it.
You
And
appreciated
that
it.
I'm a a descendant
Hmm.
of Jam.
Right.
Like
You,
that's cool.
yeah, that is. And the one thing I think you touched on was like you can't replicate it because that energy is
Mm-hmm.
different when you know
Yes.
it's 100% grass rooted and you have these people all pitching in, everyone's giving effort off the sweat of their brow to make this, come to life. And then to see what 40 years later, it's actually getting like it's just due. That to me was amazing. And I just loved it that it was a black mom with three
Mm-hmm.
kids that got it all, that got it
It's
all, bro.
always that though.
Yeah.
It's always the black mothers that's putting the foot down, and mothers period. I'm not just
Yeah.
going to, leave it for a singular race or creed, but mothers period. They've been putting it down for years, and that just shows the strength, of
Hmm.
what mothers have been doing since the beginning of time. And not only was it good to have the recognition at MoMA, but you could see Jam in a lot of curators, a lot of gallerists, a lot of artists. So
Hmm.
when I say I'm a descendant of Jam, I don't mean like David Hammons is my grandfather or my
Right.
father or nothing like that. I don't mean anything in that sense, but just that creative thought, that making it happen ability, um, and just never saying die.
Right.
Like that's huge. And I'm a huge appreciator of Linda Good Bryant and everybody, even the person that contributed by just passing flyers out. They
Yep.
made Jam what it is. And just a super salute to everything that they're about.
Yeah. Listen, that's why I was like, this is my number one. I was
Fact.
just so I was just so happy, bro, to see that. Like, I'm glad I'm the type of person that likes to see the hard work pay off.
Yeah.
Like, even though it seems like you had major setbacks, it was people paying attention that said, yo, without them doing this,
Mm-hmm.
these other artists wouldn't have been able to have a platform to showcase, to build a portfolio and things like that. So that's why I was like, man, that's what I
He's
remember. That was my question. I was like, can Jam come back? Can we get a Jam 2023? Like, I feel like we need it because I feel like there's a lot of artists, individual artists doing their own thing, and there's not a lot of cohesiveness. But
Yeah, Jam
it,
Jam is around. I
it's
think Jam
around.
is around. It just looks different, as most things do
Hmm.
these days. But it's here. I think there's a lot of people, myself, you included, that's carrying that spirit.
Yeah.
And that spirit is all you really can do, because I mean, it's super hard to get a space in Midtown Manhattan these days for less than what 15,000 a month.
Easy.
Even in LA, 10,000 is like the key. So Jam in spirit and just creating space to be shown
Yeah.
is enough,
Yeah.
to carry that on.
And
So
just and
yeah.
just and just FYI, you guys, I feel like Badir here is gonna be working something coming soon.
Oh yeah.
Just want to put that positiveness out there so you guys can
Oh
just
yeah.
send him all the good energy because
Please do.
it's gonna be
All that good
amazing for a
Jam
lot of it.
energy.
Yeah, all that good jam
That
energy.
Jam energy. We need that.
All right, Badir.
So
So what's yours? What's
so to
yours?
carry to keep this moving, I'm starting with Simone Lee
Mm.
just completely killing the Venice Biennale. I
Yeah.
mean, it's been a month, like a month and a half or something like that since it closed. But since it opened, she has just been the talk of the whole Venice Biennale. I'm pissed I didn't get a chance to go this year. I went in 2017. I planned on going in 2019, that around that time, because I think Martin Puryear around there was representing the US at the time. And I
Hmm.
really love his work too. He has this beautiful piece at the Smithsonian, which we talked about last episode.
Yeah.
That's like this message in a bottle with this big ampersand in the middle of it.
Hmm.
Super dope. And the work that he was just preparing for the Biennale, it just looked amazing. So to see Simone come and just crush it with just epic work was, oh man, it just, it was one of those FOMO moments of 2022 for me. because I'm a huge fan of hers, and just to see her, you know, in that go big or go home moment, really crush it
Yeah.
was epic for me.
The go big or go home moment was the thing for me. Like when we
Mm-hmm.
we had spoke about this prior, and um I was just like, man, like she really just stepped out and was like, oh, this is my platform. This
Mm-hmm.
is my platform now. Like, you know how you remember the old, what is that? The captain is like, look at me.
Yeah,
I'm the
I'm the
captain
captain
now.
now. Yeah,
And
I'm the
she
captain.
stepped into it with these beautiful large scale
Beautiful.
pieces. Dude, it's almost like, I don't know. It reminds me of, not to go off topic, but it reminds me of the cause pieces that he did in Texas
Mm-hmm.
for, I think, their South by Southwest Art Festival or something. These big wooden
Mm-hmm.
pieces he created,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
of the companion of his version of companions, and to see her with her version, it's not a
Mm-hmm.
companion, but it's almost like taking us back to the motherland with the traditional dresses, the hair, the detailed hair braids in these
Mm-hmm.
pieces. I was like, oh, you can tell the effort and time was there, and she was ready.
Yeah.
They pulled
And
her
and
card,
and
and she was ready.
and it wasn't like, if when you looked at the images from the visitors and people who
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed it, it was a movement, especially
Mm-hmm.
for Black women.
Yes.
um she inspired so many women in the art world, to just be themselves. You're good and great just how you are. And
Mm-hmm.
I believe the works that she put on view reflected that. I mean, there was like a reflection pool in
Yep.
part of it, and it kind of gave off the Kara Walker, like the sugar babies, the
Yeah.
subtlety work, the large sugar piece,
Yeah.
because that was just that stands the test of time for me. That's one of
Mm-hmm.
the dopest of that year for sure. But it reminded me of that with Simone Lee's work, and it just captivated everyone who came across it. And not only with just its sheer size and all of that, but the content of what it was beautiful, and it was
Right.
well crafted. And the fabricators and the team that she worked with to produce these, it was like, just again seeing the images. I didn't even see it in person. I'm pissed at myself that I didn't. Hopefully
Right.
some of these pieces will come back around in museum shows, or maybe a retrospective soon, to where I can actually see some of these works. But it'll never be the Venice Biennale
No.
experience.
No.
I went there in 2017, like I mentioned, and Mark Bradford was at the US Pavilion, and it was just amazing. And every pavilion that I went into was another level of art making that I just appreciated on a totally different scale. And I can't wait to
Mm.
get back.
That's dope. Yeah, man. When you told me about her, I was like, let me see if I remember who she is and what it looks like. And then when I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, this is what
Mm-hmm.
he was talking about last time. So just so our listeners know, we have a ton of artists that we don't get to speak about,
Oh yeah.
and we are slowly crafting a way to get more artists into it beyond our artist spotlights. So if you hear a
Mm-hmm.
few names listening to this podcast today, you're going to be like, oh wow, who is this? The
Yeah.
people we're giving you, definitely look them up. You're going to be like, wow, these
Yeah.
are
And like Justin said, we're working
inspirational.
on for season 2 to incorporate more of a lot of not just the business and what's going on in the art world, but the creatives as well.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just a little insight to what we got coming for y'all guys. So
Yeah.
who you got next? What you got next, Justin? What's your number two?
My number two is the Whitney Biennial.
Hmm.
Bro, I love this one. I didn't get to go. I've been to the Whitney before, but I like to follow up with it because they give space to living artists, bro, that are actually creators, and they pick young adults,
Mm-hmm.
like young people. It's a mix of old, but more heavy on the young. And I
Yeah.
was just like, oh, this is beautiful. Like they have artists from Canada, Mexico, East LA, New York, other countries. And I was just like, oh my goodness, like Tibet, Beirut, San
Mm-hmm.
Francisco, like they just pull these artists. And I'm like, man, that excites me as an
Yeah.
artist myself. And it excites me as a viewer and consumer of art, because it's like I want to see what these new people are working on.
Mm-hmm.
And um reading up on it, it was my perfect cup of tea because it spoke to uh they were talking about shadows and light and darkness. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was very much like, oh, this is interesting. Okay. Cause I'm in that world where it's just like a lot of my artwork encompasses light. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of my artwork, it speaks to shadows and text and different things like that. So I was like, okay. And I was also excited about it because after what was it, 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
And they just had to sit there with crazy. I think it was almost like a borderline revolution of like a new wave of activism, a new
Mm-hmm.
wave of social justice, a new wave of all this. And to see these pieces that these artists who lived in this time frame had to create with, I
Mm-hmm.
was like, man, this is amazing. And I loved it. And I loved how when I was reading on it, how the Whitney, if you ever get a chance to go, or if you've been, they have, I believe, 6 floors, or is it five? No, it's 6 floors.
Think it's six. Yeah.
Yeah, because and then they split those floors based off of the shadows and light
Mm.
of what the artists were creating. If you were doing
Mm-hmm.
light work, you were on a certain floor. If you were working on the more darker side, it was on
Mm-hmm.
that floor. And I thoroughly appreciated it. And to me, I was like, for them to go out and dedicate time to finding 60 young artists and give them that shot, man, the Whitney will always be in my top for galleries.
And see that kind of it makes me hopeful, but it also makes me sad
Yeah.
because like I you think about what the Whitney Biennial does, just like you said, for these younger, hungrier
Mm-hmm.
sometimes artists. I mean, not to say that mid-career and even older artists aren't hungry because they definitely are,
Mm-hmm.
but it allows this opportunity. I'm wondering why LACMA hasn't had a biennial or the Getty. Maybe there's some form of it, or the main
Mm.
museum in the local big city. I don't know if like the Museum of Chicago has a biennial, or MFA Boston, or Smithsonian. Even that would be dope. But it's a great way for museums to source a real view of what's being currently created in our world, and to actually give that opportunity for their patrons to see something different
Mm.
without it having to be a focused show. We
Right.
we know what goes into putting up a retrospective, putting up a
Mm-hmm.
solo exhibition, putting up a very themed or focused exhibition. It takes years. We
Right.
get it. But for a biennial, to where, it's funny that their title for this show is called Quiet as Kept.
Yep.
Um, it's kind of like apropos, but it's
Mm-hmm.
like, these artists, they shouldn't be, quiet. They
Right.
shouldn't be, hidden. Like, these works are good, and
Right.
they show a trajectory and a transition, and not only the art market but art practice. I mean, you see different types of tools, you see different ideas. Certain things have been rehashed into new ways of seeing, thinking, and all
Mm-hmm.
that, but that's what these events and exhibitions and residencies bring. And I
Right.
think that's a good part of what this is. And that should be a a, a thing in every
Mm-hmm.
museum. Like, every museum should have to do it, at least one in every state.
I think you hit the nail on the head with the questioning of why other galleries, major galleries, haven't done it in their state, especially in California. I'm like, you guys have at least one, two, three, four, maybe five in Southern California that could
Yeah.
easily do it. And you probably would have, I think each gallery could hold their own and you wouldn't even see the same artist because of the the wealth of creatives and artists in Southern California alone. I'm not trying to leave
Yeah.
out the Bay and Northern California, but just in Southern California alone, you
Mm-hmm.
each gallery could host their own and they would not see the same artist. So I
Yeah.
am very much on that. Like they need to step up and get that going.
I mean, if even like we talked about, like if it was, or a NorCal and SoCal thing. Like you can have SF MoMA and you can have LACMA or whatever, and you could do 63 artists at
Mm-hmm.
each location,
Mm-hmm.
and it
Uh,
still wouldn't tap into how
nope.
many amazing creatives that are on the West Coast. And mind you, the Whitney Biennial has people from LA, has people
Mm-hmm.
from, California too. So
Mm-hmm.
there's that migration of good works,
Yeah.
being shifted around to where it's like people are getting opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
They're you don't have to just, oh, I have to move to LA to get this opportunity. I have to move to New York. If people are out there sourcing and looking for good work, you'll find it. Just give them a chance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And my thing is, when you give people a chance that typically wouldn't,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna have your mind blown. Like
Oh yeah.
I'm like looking at some of these, I was like, wow, that's fire. Like I just want to sit and have an artist talk with how did you come up with that? You know what I mean? Like that to me is where I'm like, that's phenomenal. I think that's amazing. But yeah, man. So what's your number two, Badir, as we keep rolling?
My number two is how fast the fine arts community, for the most part, abandoned the NFT talk. Now,
Oh yeah.
I'm a fan of NFTs. I'm a fan of blockchain. I've said it. I'm a fan of what the technology brings to the space. I'm a fan of the creativity around it. I'm a fan of some of the creators
Right.
in that space.
Mhm.
But there was like a hold your horses moment in the beginning to where people were really just overpricing creativity, um, over analyzing it, and
Yeah.
also just saying some crazy stuff. Like I remember I heard someone actually mention that there was an NFT artist who's up there. I would say one of the top 5 NFT artists. He's shown at the Sotheby's and the Christie's of the world and have works for auction. But they were saying like this is the new Picasso.
That's a
It
bold
it was
statement.
man, it was ridiculous. Bold ain't even a word. Ridiculous is the word for that. And it was just like, okay, we need to taper this back because a lot of folks in the space really need to do some art history and
Mhm.
see what it took for these artists to really make their names. And it wasn't just, you know, messing around with tools and things like that to create. It was it was from the muscle,
Right.
literally, from the
Right.
brain, from the muscle, from the hand, from whatever. And
Mhm.
I think once some common sense started to set in, and people started to talk about things, people knew that, well, at least the fine art or fine artists that I talked to realized that creating in the digital space was here and here to stay, but transacting and creating and pushing their practice forward in that space, it wasn't time yet.
Mhm.
So I think the NFT space was really excited about bringing in a lot of the fine arts community almost for validation. And when that didn't happen, when the fine arts community said, wait a minute, we're going to create our own ecosystem inside of this, a lot of the NFT talk between the two parties, I should say, maybe that's better, kind of tapered off. So that talk
Mhm.
kind of like went down to where it was like, oh, it's going to affect the art market or art
Mhm.
practice in general.
Yeah. I I agree with you. And the other thing I
Mm-hmm.
want to add to that is the fact that not only did they abandon it so quickly, I feel that with everything with crypto, how unstable it was,
Mm-hmm.
that caused people to back up a lot too. Because it's just like how valuable is this piece? Like, for example, what was it? One of the Paul brothers had this rare NFT something that
Mm-hmm.
he bought for 3.2 million and now it's
I
like
think that
worth
was one of the bored apes.
yeah, and it was like
Mm-hmm.
3.2 million and now it's only worth 600,000. It's like and
But
it's
but
slowly dropping too.
to be fair, to add to your point, that happens in the traditional art market too. Because there's artists who sold for a certain price point in 1985 that can't get on, that can't get a hammer,
Mm.
in 2020. There's people that sold. I mean, remember it happened to Damian Hirst for a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah.
Happened to a few different artists. One of my buddies, he always brings up this one artist. I can't remember his name, but he always say, "Do you remember this dude?" No, I'd be like, "Nah." He'd be like, "Exactly." He was the hottest artist in 2008. He
Yeah.
sold for this, he sold for that, and now you don't see him anywhere. So
Mm.
that's the risk you take. I think a lot of people just aren't used to that type of bottom falling out of an asset.
So quick. And it's not a tangible asset, too. It's
Exactly.
a it's as some people like to call it, it's just a JPEG. Like, where's the actual thing to it, which is kind of right, but kind of
Mhm.
wrong, because it's like that actually holds other like value. You can have like artist talk, like you can connect directly with the artist. You can get a special release or code or something else that comes with it.
Mhm.
And I just feel that people were more on the side of like, you know what? This is a young man's game, and I'm not throwing all this money into that.
That too. I mean, and also it turned into a stock market.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
and
Quickly.
that hurt. It was just like, what's different than going to auction? What's different
Mm-hmm.
than buying Apple or Google? And
Mm-hmm.
I think when we talk about what NFTs are and what they provide to the creator economy, you're right. They did give access to special rewards.
Mm-hmm.
I even with NFTs that I did for my the protest project, you know gave away, if you purchased an NFT, you got a book,
Mm-hmm.
of the whole thing for those perks. But I think the NFT community could have done a much better job of delivery,
Mm.
of explaining what these extras, quote unquote, are for NFTs, and why they're necessary, and why
Mm-hmm.
they make this product what it is.
Yeah.
People just read about Bored Ape and Cool Cats and all of these other projects and seeing people making money. Oh, I paid $1,000 for this. Now it's worth 4.2 million.
Yeah.
That's the same dreams that collectors have in the fine art world when they're trying to get one of these artists from the Whitney Biennial from their
Mm-hmm.
studio for $5,000 and flip them a
Mm-hmm.
year or two from now and get 1.2 million, 800,000, whatever the large number is at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could be absolutely nothing. So it's just those same sentiments
Right.
that creeped in, and I think it had people just like, up, you know what? I'm backing the hell off.
It scared a lot of people. That for sure was the first thing, because it was almost like people were printing money at that point.
Yes.
And then that's
Yes.
what it scared people, because it's like, so what's the value to this if this guy's getting a board yacht club or yacht 8 or whatever they're called, they can get those, but then someone comes out with a board kitty shipwreck, like they just give these crazy names to these products, and I don't think they understood. It's kind of like back in the day where you could go to Blockbuster or Hollywood Video and rent a DVD, and then you get the extras if you wait. Like, how you had
Mm-hmm.
that special extra disc that would be in there sometimes. It's just like, what is
Mm-hmm.
on this? And this is like director's cut, film commentary, like scripts and edits. Like you got to actually look into it. And I think I would agree with you that if there was more of that communication, like, hey, you buy
Yeah.
this and there's something special that comes with it, I think
Yeah.
that would have held its ground a lot more. But a lot of times people were just buying them and getting nothing.
Yeah, but they weren't expecting much either, because if they
Right.
were in for, I bought this for $1,000, I'm now up 25,000.
Right.
When is my time to sell?
Right.
That's
Exactly.
that's the only trigger. It wasn't like, oh, this does good. I don't even want to hold it to get the perks.
Right.
If I'm at 25,000, this is where it's at. That's the
Right.
perk.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's the perk. I got this money.
Right.
But there are still some people doing good stuff, like friend Jordan Bain out doing Film 3,
Mm.
other Web3 folks. Black Dave does amazing stuff in audio. The homie Eric Spivak, who does a lot of good stuff in just um, events,
Mm-hmm.
everything. I mean, photography, you got Drift. I mean, you have people that are creating in this space and doing really well. I just don't think the space overall is as healthy as it needs to
Yeah.
be a sustainable mechanism to a practice.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I agree. So
so where
as
we
we
at? Where we at?
we're at three now. So I'm at my third one, and I'm gonna take it to an artist. And this artist is one that I became very fond of from the Whitney biennial, I think in 2017, maybe 18, maybe 16, 17, or 18. I can't remember when I had went to New York, and I literally will not lie to you. I woke up at 7 and I was like, I'm hitting every gallery.
Nice.
Feet were killing me, but I hit them. But I saved the best for last, which was the Whitney. And I'm speaking on Deanna Lawson. I'm telling you guys
Yes.
right now, she is a phenomenal photographer.
One of
Um,
my favorites.
yeah, and I have to share this little bit because it was pretty funny when I told Badir. It's like when I first saw her work, I was just like, oh, this is dope. It's like the homies got in because it's in one of her pieces. Is like a little bit of background about her. She um works closely with the black body and the depiction of it and posing and lighting and how to photograph uh the black body, and she does a very well, like a not a very well, an excellent job of it. But the one thing I think that sets her apart is she catches them in their raw element, like in
Hmm.
their houses, on the porch, in the bedroom, in the couch, in their grandmother's house. Like it's very, if you see it, for black people, it's like you almost know whose house that could be. Like it
Hmm.
brings you into that. And I'm just telling you right now, I was just like so floored by her work. And I remember I told Badir, I was like, first time I saw her work, I was like, um, I had taken a picture of it and I had posted it on my Instagram. And I was like, when you and the homies make it in the Whitney biennial, and it's like it's a picture of these like four different black men just throwing up their set, and she took a phenomenal picture. And I was just like, man, I these cats, I don't know where they are or what their their destiny may hold for them, but they are forever immortalized in the Whitney biennial. And I just think that was dope to me. I just was like, I loved it. And ever since then, once I became a photography professor, she's been on my top list of photographers that students should look into when it comes time to learn how to shoot black skin, how to light black skin. You have fair skinned black people, you have dark skinned black people. How do you shoot that? How do
Yeah.
you pose your lighting? And she gives like if you just look at her work, it seems raw, but it's intentional. Like
Hmm.
everything she's working on and working towards is very intentional. So she's one of my artists this year that I was like so excited to see that she's stepping into her, you know, her strength and her galleries, and she's just finally getting some of that representation that she desperately was warranted. You know what I mean?
Oh hell yeah, Deanna Lawson. And you, just to piggyback on what you were saying, like she's just amazing. Like
Yep.
I've fell in love with her creativity and just almost like her silence,
Uh-huh.
because you rarely hear Deanna Lawson speak or talk or show up places. I don't even know if she would make it known if she was in a room. She seems to me to have that soft presence, but it's a mighty presence.
Mm-hmm.
And her camera does just that. Fun fact: when she had her exhibition at the Underground Museum here in LA, wish they would open back up. I don't know what's going on, but someone else saw that same photo because that was inside the photo with the
Mm-hmm.
brothers throwing up their set and all that, and their reaction was like, "Damn, they're banging hard on somebody." You know what I mean? And you think
So
about what photography and an image can mean in different spaces.
mm-hmm.
Looking at that in Whitney Biennial in New York, it could be like, oh man, that's just a representation of a culture.
Uh-huh.
But in LA, you're like, yo, who they talking to? Like what, what is this? What does
Yeah.
this mean? Who are they
Right.
going against? Will someone
Yeah.
else see this and take offense?
Right.
Like that as a curator, I think is one of the things I would look at and think about is like, man, I don't want nobody coming in here and starting no nonsense because they thinking that we disrespecting their hood. You know what I mean? But on the flip side, that's how authentic
Yeah.
her photography is.
Yeah.
It gives you those thoughts. It puts you like, you know, she had to have been right there on the block,
Right. Right in front of him.
right in front of him. And then my other piece from Deanna Lawson, I don't know if you've seen this piece, but it's literally probably one of my favorites of hers. But it's two brothers sitting on a couch, and one of them has this dental jewelry
Oh,
in his mouth.
where it's like pulling his cheeks
Yeah,
apart,
it's
right?
like
It's
pulling it
almost
up.
like, yeah.
Yeah. And in the top right corner, there's this image of these teeth.
Uh-huh.
And those teeth were George Washington's dentures
Mm.
with slave teeth in the dentures.
Oh, wow.
And I thought that
Wow.
that was crazy because, you know, you're looking at it with this brother, you know, hood. I mean, because, you know, mind you, she's photographing hood brothers. Like these
Yeah.
brothers is, you know, they not just no goody two shoes type of
Right.
brothers. They out here, they out here,
Right.
you know. So to see that jewelry in his mouth and juxtaposed with that image, it's almost like, is this America's version of taking the teeth out of black men's mouth? Is that silencing them? Is that, you know, it made me think of a
Right.
lot of different ways of how that could be portrayed. And it takes me back to again just saying photography in the hands of the right people can mean everything,
Right. It
you
can.
know?
It definitely can. And I think the juxtaposition of his teeth
Mm-hmm.
and that setup, and you see these dudes. One dude has a perm, another dude has
Mm-hmm.
his do-rag. He's got the money, he's got the iPhone, got cigarette, he's holding a joint in his hand. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
different. Like it gives you this like, wait. There's a lot going on in
Yeah.
here. Like what am I needing to pay attention to? But I think it's almost if you're not used to it or you're not familiar with this, it could be intimidating. Like it comes off
Mm-hmm.
very brash and aggressive. And I just think that's the part where I love it the most because it's open for that interpretation of conversation.
Exactly.
And I think that more people are starting to see her work as like, okay, this is an interpretation of something, but I don't know what, because it's like you legit have to sit with her to have these conversations of like why. And I don't think she'll open up about that because I feel
Mm-hmm.
like she wants the photography and the photos to speak for themselves. And it's crazy, dude. I love it. And you know what type of camera she uses? Have you ever looked into like the type of camera she uses?
She uses a variety of them. I've seen like the Hasselblads and, you know, old
She
time, you
I was
know,
about to
snap.
say she uses a Pantech 6.7,
Mm.
which is big, bulky, not attractive, but it gives you very good uh pictures, like
It's
the
a very
old
large
school.
format.
Yeah, large
Yeah.
format. Yeah.
There's a photographer that I follow on Instagram that also does great work. Her name is Austin Irving. Got to
Hmm.
shout out. We've been shouting out artists. Remember we told y'all.
Yeah.
But she does large format as well, and her images come out really great. Which
Hmm.
both of them, two women, of course, they're inspiring us all around. They make me want to look into large format photography, because like it's very controlled,
Yes.
but the results are just astronomical on a
Yeah.
different scale. So it's
Yeah.
like it's something I definitely want to try.
Oh yeah. And I think she can give a master class in doing it because
Facts.
I think it gives her the power because it's like you're not behind this little camera. It's like you're
Yeah.
orchestrating this large piece of equipment. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? And I just think she holds it down. And I had to just throw her out there. She was one of the artists we didn't get to touch on. We probably will later on next season, but I just
Yeah.
feel like she needed to get her light. So, but dear, your third one.
I got the Black American Portraits exhibition at LACMA
Mm,
that accompanied the Obama portraits.
yeah.
So this one, if you hadn't seen a review I did, go check it out. It's on YouTube. But I had a lot to say about that. It was about an hour of me saying about that, and I'll condense it. for what we're talking about here. Um, I thought the works that were included, many of them were very phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the artists I'm very familiar with. A few of the
Mm-hmm.
artists I got to know. I think it maybe only been about maybe 3 or 4 artists I didn't know going in. Um, but the flip side of it is I thought that that exhibition was way too cluttered for the impact that it should have had. I
Mm-hmm.
think that the clutter took away from the detail that could have been given to a select group of works that represents Black American portraiture. Um, I noticed that there was uh, no Gordon Parks,
Godfather. How you forget
unless I
him?
missed it. I don't think I did. I don't think I did. But like when I think of Black American portraiture, I think of him. I
Yeah.
think of Herman Bingham when you get the Muhammad Ali portraits.
Right.
Um, you think of these type of photographers, Deanna Lawson.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see no Deanna. Well, no, there was a Deanna portrait. I'm sorry. Yes, there was actually a dope one of a father and a son, kind of like showing generational style.
Mm-hmm.
That was very dope. But it just it was an overflow. And I think portraiture wasn't explained of how dynamic it is. I think when you hear Black American portraits as a noob, if you're just walking
Yeah.
into a museum, you think you're going into a photography show.
Mm-hmm.
They don't
Yeah. Yeah.
understand, most people, you know, and I don't want to take credit away from anybody. But they're not expecting painted portraits for the most part. They're
Right.
thinking of sitting portraits of dignitaries,
Mm-hmm.
celebrities, things like that. So I think that in the exhibition description or um, information, there should have been a more of an introduction of
Uh-huh.
what people were coming to see.
Mm.
That portraiture could be a photograph, it could be a
Yep.
sculpture, it could be a painting, it could be a video, which were
Yeah.
all displayed in this exhibition. While cluttered, it was there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you think it was done on accident, or do you think it was intentional to make sure everybody who they said they would show, or do you think it was accidental? Because I know when I took my gallery class on how to hang and spacing and what that does and what it allows people to do when they come to see the work, do you, when we both know that,
Mm-hmm.
how important spacing is in a gallery, and for a gallery of that stature and size to clutter it, do you think they were just trying to give everybody their space, like give everybody not their space but give everybody their shine, like, hey, you can just put this on a resume that you were in here and here's your piece?
I I did think of that. I had a few feelings going in, like,
Mm-hmm.
going in, I was like, man, my initial thought was like, man, they're going to dig deep into the collection. They're going to, merge some
Mm-hmm.
existing, highlights with some newer works to try to draw the collection in. Um, then when I got in there and learned a little bit more about it, that the curator, was leaving, take a Tate job, I thought, man, this was a rush job, and
Mm.
kind of brought, a few
Yeah.
other Black women with her that kind of just like put that stamp on it that it had some Black hands on it.
Yeah.
Um, and then my final realization of it was uh, that this was just the loot that they collected from a recent grouping of acquisitions. No, this was
That's
this
wild.
they acquired a bunch of different Black paintings from artists that what it may have a relationship with, may not. We're not here to speak on that. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
But this was a display almost of the loot. Like
Mm.
it's almost like they needed something of some type of substance to go with these Obama portraits, which were horribly, in my opinion, displayed.
Mm.
Um, I've seen, I mean, I got a chance to see the Obama portraits at the Smithsonian. And of course, there's no better place than to see them in their environment that they're going in, other than probably the White House.
Mm-hmm.
But I just thought that this was a half-assed job all the way on the Black American Portrait Show, because it could have got so much more out of a topic that is necessary. And then out of the presidential portraits and bringing something of that stature into a museum that did a way better job with the Alexander McQueen exhibition than they did with the portraits. All I can say is Trump wouldn't have let that happen. Trump would have came into LACMA and tore that place upside down before he allowed that to happen.
uh, just FYI, you guys, we are not a political
At all. I'm
podcast.
just saying, you know how
He's
that man
he get
gets.
when Badir gets warmed up, you just gotta let him go. You just gotta embrace it because he's gonna tell you how he feels about it.
And then man,
No,
Donald
I do.
Trump, I'm not even a fan of his, but if he's like, yo, he gonna talk about the curators, the building, everybody, if everything ain't right. He gonna make sure that you represent whatever he's doing the right way. And like, I just wish that it came with some stipulations, like here is the design, here's
Mhm.
this. Like I was expecting more. That's all I should say. I was expecting more.
All right. So
So
as
what
we
do we
move,
got next?
we're at number four. So my number four, it was a pretty funny topic we had, which is I found it interesting to say the least because it's kind of the culture that I'm in and the culture I was raised in. And it kind of threw me off to see Sotheby's into retelling and selling of Jordans and rare shoes. I was like, this isn't Flight Club. This isn't Soul Stage. What is Sotheby's doing selling retros? Like, what are you guys doing? And it was a very interesting conversation Badir and I both had. And I was just like, somebody's grandfather or grandson was like, hey, y'all got the money? You should just start buying these shoes. Why?
Yeah, I
You'll get
mean,
like a 3,000% return on them.
yeah, bro, Sotheby's, Christie's, any of those auction houses, like they're about money. Like
That's
people
it.
know them for the art,
Right.
but they sell wine, they sell jewelry, they sell cars.
Right.
They're just an auctioneer. Like they will sell whatever's profitable. I think I remember them selling was it the Supreme collection of skate decks?
Yeah.
I think it might have been a year or two ago.
Yeah.
They will sell man, they will sell whatever is, what I mean, there. Like when we talk about sneakers, I wouldn't be surprised if Sotheby's or Christie's or somebody puts like the last pair or like the model pair of like the Yeezy up, because we know they're going to be extinct. So
Yeah.
someone's going to pay $10 million for the only pair of Yeezys that aren't damaged through all of this nonsense or something like that. Like they're into the money. So sneakers
That's
didn't
it.
surprise me at all.
It surprised me because this is probably my own ignorance that I was like, oh, Sotheby's art. You don't think Sotheby's sneakers? Like it just sounds weird. I just was like, they can't be hurting for money that they over here slanging retros now. Like
They
you
ain't hurting.
can't, because even if you go to their site, you can see some of them are going for like the Eminem Carhartts are going for 21,000. Like what? And then they have some off-white chrome hearts that are going for 20,000, and then they have some rare Yeezys that are like the Nike forgive me, the Nike Kanye Yeezys, the red glow in the dark ones, and I'm
Oh,
just
the
like,
Red October
the red
ones?
October ones on there going for like 15. I'm like, you guys are crazy. You're selling millions of dollars. You literally just sold $1 billion. Why are you penny pinching off of the little man who makes his ends off of selling sneakers? It's like, here you guys come in and do this. And I'm like, yo, wild for
Because
this.
more.
Yeah,
That's why. Because more.
I
The
get it.
more they can do, the better it is for their stockholders and shareholders, because that is a business, like. And one other thing that Sotheby's offers is a luxury brand, right?
Right.
So like if you're buying from Sotheby's, you for the most part know things are going to be fact checked. You
Mm,
know you're going to get the certificates of authenticity. You know that the people have done their due diligence.
right.
You pretty much know that you're going to get a good product. You know, nothing inferior.
Right.
Hell, even the Banksy that was shredded,
Yeah.
wasn't inferior. You know what I mean? Like
Nah,
it
it caught
still
them off
was,
guard though.
it caught
It
them off
caught
guard, but it actually put them in a better space because then people wanted that for more money because that was done live. So I think, you know, them being an auction house says it all. Like man, if it was back in the day, I'm pretty sure when Sotheby's was founded, they were probably selling insurance policies and, you
insurance
know,
policies for artwork.
yeah, like
Yeah.
freaking, putting auction up freaking boulders of hay or, you know what I mean, chickens
Right.
or whatever,
Right.
whatever the asset of the day was,
Right.
because that's what auctioneers do.
Yeah.
They create a marketplace, and bring
People,
together willing buyers and
I was about
sellers,
to say that people want it. Like I understand that they had like I think they had a pair of Jordan rookie Nikes that were like from 1984 when he first got in the league. I get that. Like he signed them. They're from 1984. They're game worn. I get it. Making
Yeah.
money. But these are shoes that are like fresh in the box. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, this isn't Soul Stage. This isn't Flight Club. Like, what are y'all doing? Who do you
I
think you
mean,
are?
but don't we see works go straight from artist studios to auction houses? Works that were on a freaking gallery wall 2 weeks ago, somehow end up in a museum,
You're
end
right.
up at an auction house,
Yeah,
end
you're
up in
right.
these places. It's like whatever's going to push that needle forward.
They're all for it.
These days they're all forward.
Right.
There was a little bit more etiquette back in the day where they was like, all right, where's your resume? Let me see what you've done, this and that. Now it's about, all right, what gets the turnstiles going,
Right.
and what gets people in there spending. It reminded me of like back in the day. Remember when the Washington Bullets had Manute Bol and Muggsy
Oh,
Bogues?
yeah.
Like they
Yeah.
weren't going to win no games, but people wanted to
Wanted to
see the
see.
7'5", Sudanese basketball player and the 5'3" American basketball player on the same team.
Right.
It was a sideshow.
Right.
They knew they weren't going to win, so let's sell tickets.
Got it. I
You
get
know,
you. I just thought it was interesting to me because I was like, you guys are over here selling $1 billion collections and you penny pinching over $20,000 Jordans. Is like, I don't know. I don't
yeah.
know. I was just what would have made this sweeter is if Sotheby's had their own NFT little market that they didn't want nobody to know about. Like,
I
you know
think
what I
they
mean?
do.
They do.
I think they might, man. I wouldn't be surprised because Sotheby's is one of the first auction houses that reached into the NFT space to do
Mm,
NFT auctions and things like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're either already have it or working on an ecosystem to where they are the stewards of, or what should I say? What's the better word? The holders
got
or
it.
the presenters and
Uh-huh.
the verifiers of these NFTs or
Hmm.
whatever the word that fits in there perfectly, just to validate it for collectors. Because one thing collectors is always going to trust is brand names.
Yeah,
You know,
that's true.
that's
Yeah.
why they'll buy a Picasso from Gagosian quicker than a Picasso from JoJo's art gallery on 51st Street. You know what I mean?
Right.
Even if they both have real Picassos.
Right. I see what you mean. I get it. Yeah. I just found that to be interesting to me to see that during my research. All right, Badir, what's your fourth one?
My number 4 is another artist and a brother I'm very fond of. I just love his whole style. Henry Chinatown Taylor.
Oh
He
yeah.
had his retrospective exhibition Dynamo opening at Museum of Contemporary Art in Los Angeles that opened up maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago. And it's every bit of exciting.
Yeah.
Every bit of exciting. Henry's got some of just the coolest works. If you ever meet Henry, he's just the coolest dude walking.
Yeah.
Um, he's his whole vibe. He's just welcoming. He's the brother you love to kick it with at a party. He's always got the cool people near him.
Mm-hmm.
He's like the
He
fat,
looks like Unc. He looked
yeah,
like
yeah,
somebody
yeah.
uncle.
He's like the Fab Five Freddy, of the contemporary art world, but that's,
Yeah.
also a top artist. He just has that coolness about him. And he has, for me, the same feeling that Deanna Lawson has in her photography in his painting.
Right.
He presents that cookout, that family reunion,
Yeah.
that barbecue, so well to where or you feel like everyone in his paintings, or
Yep.
you've been in the situation that he's presenting, whether it's uh, sitting at the table with chicken bones around,
Right.
whether it's looking at a poster of Sean Bell,
Mm-hmm.
who was murdered by police in New York, whether it's a large fabricated tree where the leaves are afros, and
Yeah.
nothing but hair and wigs, and to a rocker filled with 40-ounce bottle bins.
Right.
He gives you that feeling of the reflection of who he is. His work reflects exactly who he is.
Yep.
And then to walk into one part of the exhibition and he stood up a whole Black Panther meeting,
Hmm.
like with the jackets, the fists in the air, the
Yeah.
microphones, the agenda on the wall, um, and made it and modernized it. You had one of the sculptures that had a Kaepernick jersey. You see some of the different things like I Can't Breathe. And he's modernizing and showing how that movement is still active today through this installation. And the way he touches on history, from Los Angeles history with his piece with Tookie Williams,
Mm-hmm.
to just everyday Black history. And Henry is like, he's one of the dopest, he's one of the dopest dudes, man, like that's creating right now. And he should definitely be celebrated.
Yeah. I just really appreciate his connection from. It's not a connection. It's more of a. It's more of a growth together. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
when you get like a nerve and they stretch out and they start connecting with each other,
Mm-hmm.
like it's something like that, because his ability to connect history that he lived through
Mm-hmm.
history that we're living through, and making
Exactly.
it all connect, it is um it's going to be dope. I think his
Brilliance.
trajectory is going to just continue to grow, and I think that's phenomenal for him.
I'm excited to to see what Henry hasn't shown. Because
Oh
he's
yeah.
got stuff. I know he does that. Whether they're portraits of people that visited the studio or places
Right.
he's been, there's some stuff. Or even just like family. Like, where's the stuff that we haven't seen, or that just might be in a collector's home. I'm waiting for that large MoMA Guggenheim type retrospective, LACMA
Mhm.
even, to where they pull deeper, because I think that they could have pulled so much deeper from Henry Teller. And I think a lot of these works were, pretty recent,
Yeah.
pretty recent, but I would have loved to have seen like some deeper 1970, 1980s work on a napkin or
Right.
something like that, to see where it started, where it came from. Like you said, that trajectory, and just learn more about history, maybe even some video. Henry, a young Henry talking, he's probably jive turkey and all this type of stuff. You know what I mean? Just like that,
Yeah.
that cool vibe,
Yeah.
that education of Sonny Carson type of vibe.
Yeah.
And I would love to see more of that when you dig into more of the B side of Henry Taylor. Maybe the A side is different.
Yeah. I think we'll get that. I feel
Yeah.
like he's just starting to get that he's breaking it. He's breaking that wall. He's opening it up for himself, and I think we're gonna see more dynamic work from him. I
Oh yeah,
really
he's
do.
just getting his groove.
All right.
He's just getting his groove. So where we at next? What's your
All
number
right.
5?
This is my last one. And this is something I think we both were like just super hyped on. And it was like, this is the one time where we both were kind of like, don't have much to say because it kind of says it all. So my number five is the Smithsonian giving back of the 29 Benin bronzes to Nigeria, and the statement in quotes in the title that says, "We are not the owners."
We
That to
ain't
me,
those owners.
that to me, that that said it all. And I think to me that was the icing on the cake, where it's like no gallery, no, I don't care who you are, no director, no collector can sit here and say, well, um, let me see, hold up. You can't. If the Smithsonian can do it, you can do it.
You can
If
do it.
if the Smithsonian is willing to right their wrongs so that other countries and other people can feel respected, guess what?
Mhm.
You're not bigger than them. Period.
That's big
so
facts.
so that's why I just wanted to end my top five on just one of that's it. Like I have nothing else to add to that. You're not bigger than the Smithsonian. That's it.
That's big facts. And just I haven't heard of anybody or any other institutions following in their footsteps yet. And we hope that that's something in the new year that they plan on doing, and just working out the last bit of paperwork or whatever so they can make their announcement. But again, like you mentioned, that was huge.
Right.
You know,
That's why I was just so excited that that would been my that is my fifth one, because it's there's nothing else to say when it comes to appropriating art, appropriating culture. You're not bigger than the Smithsonian. The
facts.
Smithsonian has everything,
Yeah,
everything. You're not bigger than them. So
big facts.
put your ego aside, put your bankroll aside, put your lawyers aside, and just do the right thing. That's
Do the
it.
right thing.
Just give back the appropriate people and appropriate cultures their artwork. Like you said, imagine if, like, because what did you say? I believe you said Picasso was in awe of the artworks
Oh yeah,
in
yeah. In
Africa.
Africa, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That
And
quote
then
from that artist.
yeah, and he was like, "Could you imagine what that artworks could have done for real Africans? Like
Mhm.
this is it. This is the time now. We're of the age and of the time and the group where it's just like we want to do right. You know, our ancestors did it a
Definitely.
little differently. We want to make it right so that everybody just feels included and everybody feels seen. So that's my fifth one, man. Like I wish I could sit there and be like, there's more to say. There's nothing more for me to say. And I
No,
usually talk a lot.
no, I feel you. And to wrap it up, it's mine is on the same vibe. It's all about respect. And with the Smithsonian respecting the artworks, my
Mm,
topic is the Philadelphia Museum of Art protests, where these institutions must always respect the workers,
yes.
the people that allow us to come in there and see these beautiful works.
Hmm.
It's not the curators that's hanging these works or
Nope.
dealing with the registrar or pulling these heavy ass pieces out of these trucks
Nope.
and bringing them into storage. It's the amazing men and women from these institutions
Yep.
that literally come to work every day
Hmm.
and make these pieces available for us to see. And I just felt that the Philadelphia Museum of Art, being, my hometown institution, me being in Philadelphia born and raised, I just felt that they didn't do justice the right way
Hmm.
by their staff. And it's not just them, it's a bunch of different museums. But the good thing about that is that the the staff didn't let that stop them.
Nope.
They unionized, they were part of that thing, they got it together, and they eventually won it out, got a new contract, got everything right,
Hmm.
even though, which I thought was really messed up, the Philadelphia Museum during the contract debates hired a scab staff to hang the Matisse show, while the same protesters, their workers, their staff, was outside protesting for better wages. So it's just like, all right, we're gonna skip that. The show must go on in here.
Right.
So we're gonna hire someone just to get this show up because you don't want to work.
Hmm.
I thought that that was a bad gesture, and one gesture that I feel that the staff took to heart and was like, look, like this is what y'all trying to do. All right, we're gonna make it even tougher on y'all
Right.
to make it so that you can't do what you got to do without us.
Right.
you know um You can keep trying to hire this and that and the third, but we're going to be out here every day and we're going to shut it down if we have to.
Yep.
And I supported them 100%. Still do support any institution, gallery, employee or staff, because we know how important they are to viewing art in this country, in this world, and preserving, protecting, and just being a human, just
Right.
treating humans with respect. They're
One.
there to do a job. They're there to also get paid on time. They're
Mm-hmm.
there also to be respected. They're there also to have things equitable, and they're there also to have opportunity.
Yeah.
So if we can do the same thing with repatriating these artworks back, let's do the same thing with the respect
Yep.
for the workers in our community. That
I
was my final part.
listen. Great way to end, bro. I'm not mad at that. Because we have each of us have worked in this art industry, and we know
Facts.
sometimes it's not a living wage. So I'm on board with paying people a living wage to allow us to enjoy these little things. Like
Yeah.
enjoying an art gallery and a museum is a little thing because we could easily go somewhere else.
Easily. Yeah.
But if you do right by the people, then the more people will come out of just respect. And I
Big
think
fact.
that's a phenomenal thing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you have
Yeah.
heard our top 10 of 2022. We'd like to say thank you for listening and supporting us and
Oh
sharing our
yeah.
post on Instagram. Um,
Everything that y'all do.
everything that you guys have done. And before we wrap up, Adair, is there anything you want to share with the people before we finish up with this podcast?
Yeah, just piggybacking on what you said, man, just thanking everybody truly. Like, I mean, you guys just really don't know how much this means to us. And we're excited to bring new, excitement in season two. We've already been talking about it and doing our research, as we said, to make sure that we just stay at the top of our game, because it's important to us. And I believe it's important to you all as well. Um, and just rock with us. If you have any questions or comments, put them in the Instagram.
Yes.
Reach out. We love to engage, and we plan on just bringing a couple more important voices next season, and more important topics, and just so that we can grow as a unit, and the Art School Graduates podcast can continue to progress. And
Yes.
our 2023 is going to be just as bright as everybody's, and we're looking forward to that. So,
Yes, we are.
thank y'all big time. Big time.
Yes. So just to give our fans like what's going to be happening coming up. So we're going to take off for this month of January. We're going to be back in February, but you will continue to see posts on our Art School Graduates podcast. Not on our Art School Graduates podcast, but on our Art School Graduates Instagram. You will see continual posts and updates about what's happening, what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Just reiterating some of the most interesting topics we've had from this season. So our podcast Instagram name is at Art School Graduates with an S. That is at Art School Graduates on Instagram. And we are going to slowly start opening things up to YouTube and TikTok and other places. We're just, laying the foundation first. And we just want to say for the ones who have been here since we started, thank you. You're a blessing to us. And we are so grateful for your support. Well, Badir, season 10, man. We made it.
Season 1 in the books.
Oh, yeah. Season 1. I said season 10. I'm over here excited.
Wait till season 10.
Yeah.
Then that's going to be even doper. We might be in a whole different environment.
Man, we might
Studio,
be having
everything.
Man, we might even be in the gallery just hosting live performances.
Right.
Oh, man, it's going to be phenomenal. So, yes, my name is Justin Robinson.
And I'm Badir McCleary. Y'all have a happy, and safe new year. And we'll talk to y'all in February.
All right, y'all. Peace.
Peace.